Okay, so today we're going to be looking at clips from the interview of Stephanie Lazarus. I found out about this case from a Jim Can't Swim video. If you haven't seen it, it's totally worth watching. Jim Can't Swim is amazing. Um, but so this is a LAPD cop who looks like towards the beginning of her career killed her ex-boyfriend's wife. And this is in the early 80s. And then she's pulled in for an interview around 2009. So about 25 years have passed. There's some DNA, and this cold case is getting reopened, and she's been identified as a person of interest. And so that's just a little bit of background for what's going on here. Is that in this video, she does not know that she's being recorded. She thinks she's just giving some context, and she has no idea that she's a suspect until towards the very end. It's just in the last couple minutes of the video that she realizes that. So while we watch Stephanie Lazarus's interview, I've clipped out certain sections where significant responses are given. And what I want the people watching this to do is to practice on the three levels of observation that are needed. And these three levels are: one, you need to know what question was asked; two, you have to be able to articulate what verbal answer was given; and three, you have to know what nonverbal answer was given. So I've chosen these clips that have significant either verbal, nonverbal, sometimes both, and be able to say all of these things at once. Because if you only know what you're going to ask and you're not focused on what the person actually says, then you don't know if they've answered the question or not. And if you're only focused on what they say and not how they say it, you're going to miss a lot of responses that are actually problematic and deserve a whole lot of follow-up. So this is good training. I'm going to do a series of these. This one is up first. So as you watch these, I've put a gap after the clip with a little freeze frame. So feel free to pause it then, and then see if you can test yourself and see if you can answer the questions. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given? If you look down at the bottom, I've bookmarked all of the questions, and I've written transcripts and a list of nonverbals that I observe. So if you get lost, or if you want to check your work, you can look down and see if you picked up on the same things. And if you want to skip around, the bookmarks are there too. So let's get started.
You ever remember if you ever talked to her? Because it seems like a lot of you who were at, at the school at UCLA, you guys kind of were friends during and after school. So I don't know if you guys still associated afterwards once he was married or anything.
With him?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would say, the people that were on the dorm floor, we'd have get-togethers. There's probably like 4 or 5. I don't think he ever came. I don't think. No, it was mostly girls. A girl named Smita, Diane. There's 2 Dianes, but the one Diane, I don't think she ever came. I kind of lost contact with her. We were good friends on the floor. I don't. Again, I don't understand why you're talking about some guy I dated a million years ago.
Well, do you know what happened to his wife?
Yeah, I know she got killed.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
You're not sure where he moved to after he got married?
No idea.
Never went over to visit him or
I don't think.
meet his
I
wife,
don't think so. I don't know. I don't think I did. I know he lived on Roscoe for a long, long time. I may know. He may have told me where they lived, somewhere in the valley. He may have said I lived over such and such, but I couldn't tell you specifically where.
But you don't remember specifically ever going over to visit him or visit them at wherever he moved when he left Roscoe?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't think so, but
okay.
I don't want to say no, I don't think so, and then he says, oh yeah, she came over for something, dropped something off. I don't know.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
You thought you heard about it, through a friend or in a bulletin or
Either
something?
a friend or a bulletin. I called the family. I called maybe some of his friends that I knew, and obviously it shocked you if I heard it at work, which I may have. I faintly remember a bulletin going around. Either that or somebody called me. I honestly don't remember.
Right.
And then I probably called his family, I don't know initially, I can't say if I initially spoke to him or not. I honestly don't remember. I may have said to somebody, hey, have him call me if he wants to talk, and then he may have done that. You know,
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
But from all the years, as far as you can remember, do you remember ever talking to her? Just
well, I said earlier, you know, I mean, I may have, you know, I may have talked to her. You know.
You mentioned a hospital, maybe. You may have talked to her at a hospital.
Yeah, yeah, I may have. You know, I'm thinking back now. You guys are bringing up all these whole memories.
No, it kind of dusts off the cuff.
You know, I mean, geez. I'm thinking that because I mean, we would date. He would date other people. I would date other people, and I think, you know, at one point, I mean, he may have been dating her, or I don't know. Maybe he was married. I don't even remember. And I'm like, you know what? Why are you calling me if you're either dating her or living with her or married to her? Because I honestly don't remember the time frame. And I'm like, come on, knock it off. And now I'm thinking I may have gone to her and say, hey, you know what? Is he dating you? He's bothering me. And so I'm thinking that we had a conversation about that. One or two, maybe. You know, it could have been three. I don't want to say I had 3 conversations with her.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
You wanted them both to know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're getting her called, and I'm faintly remembering when Scott moved in with me in 1993, sometime in '93, because I met Scott in April of '92. I was teaching DARE up in Oregon, and he moved down. In fact, he may have moved down in '92. 92 or 93, there was the big earthquake. No, when was the big earthquake? No, 94.
94, yeah.
So I think Scott might have moved in 93, sometime in 93. Excuse me. I haven't had my breakfast yet. And so, excuse me. And so I faintly recall that John may have called a few times, and I'm like, hey, you know, he goes, oh, can you talk or something? I'm like, you know, no, I can't talk. I've got, you know, I'm living with somebody.
Right.
You know, and that could have been a few times. It could have been once, could have been twice, could have been 3 times. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
Say that you may have, you know, that you talked to his wife, said, hey, or, you know, I don't know if it was, I guess it wasn't his wife at that time, girlfriend or whatever. And
yeah, I don't know if it was his wife or his girl. I mean, quite honestly, I don't even remember.
When you said, like, hey, you know, he's calling me, he needs to knock it off or what have you, I mean, was that civil? Was there, I mean,
oh, yeah, no, there was not. I don't think there was anything. If the conversation lasted a few minutes, I can't even remember. And what is it like, you know, we went out to lunch or anything.
Right, but there was no, like, arguments or fights or
don't think
it didn't
so.
get heated or anything like
Not
that?
that I recall, no. I mean, I would think that would stand out, I would think. Now, again, that's not standing out in my mind. You know.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
And you're saying when you went to see her, would you remember if it was at her house or at the place she worked at?
No, I'm thinking that it was probably, for some reason I want to say that the hospital seemed that, you know, if you say he got married in 85 or something, I'm thinking that, you know, maybe the hospital was on my way to work in Hollywood. I mean, that's kind of sounding familiar.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
Did you ever have gone there?
I don't think I've ever gone there. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to say, no, I've never gone there, and then you say, oh, I was at a party. Because I don't, you know, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've got these friends. We have parties. Um, my house, their house. I just don't think John ever came to. Again, at one point, because we knew people from school together. I knew different people. He knew different people. I knew people that he knew from his work. That lived in the valley. Um, you know.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
One of the concerns I had is looking at some of the notes is some of Sherry's friends said that you and her were having a problem because of the John situation.
Well, number one, I don't know who her friends are, because again, I don't recall if he did tell me where he met her. I don't know even who these friends are. A problem. Like I said, if I spoke to her, I mean, I'll go on as far as a limb, and I don't even want to say I spoke to her 5 times because that's probably not even true. I can't even remember. Again, did I meet him at her place when he lived on Roscoe for I think quite a while, but I couldn't tell you how long he lived on Roscoe. And the only reason I remember the place now is because it's like a huge dope place now where they, it may have been back then, but maybe we didn't know back then. I could have met her there. I could have, I don't even know that I met any of their friends. I can't say that. I don't know that that's a true statement.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given?
Any other cards that stand out in your mind?
Hmm. mm. I don't know how long he drove that 240 or 260Z for. And the only reason I say that is because I think I may have a picture of it with him in it.
Okay, pause and review. What question was asked? What verbal answer was given? What nonverbal answer was given? Okay, so let's wrap this up. When we're talking about this concept here of what question was asked, what was the verbal answer, and then what were the nonverbal answers, one thing that I want to focus on here is that when I say what was the verbal answer, like what did they say, it's important that you really pay attention to what exactly they say and not just summarizing. Because I've done this, of course, and I've talked to other investigators who do the same thing. Where I'll be like, okay, well, what did they say? And then it's a summary, okay? But when you get into this type of interviewing, listening to the exact words they say and really, really understanding, you're not summarizing, okay? Because when you summarize, you're making assumptions, you're you're filling in gaps that you shouldn't. What they say is what they say. So, for example, first question that we look at here, I don't know if you guys still associated after once he was married or anything. And she responds, with him? No, I don't think so. So it's interesting because her response seems to be appropriate, but she narrows it, okay? Because he's talking about, did you associate with them? And then she narrows it to with him. When I say, what is it that they actually say? I mean, what really did they say? Okay. Now, when you ask these significant questions, it is very taxing, okay? And you can't maintain this forever, but you're going to need to maintain this, especially throughout that first response. So you ask the question, and you need to be aware of what you ask so that you can put in context what their responses, both verbal and nonverbal, are. So here, the questions that we're looking at are all questions that I've selected because they had significant verbal or nonverbal combination responses to them. And um, so throughout this, there are moments that are not nearly so significant. They ask her questions, she responds appropriately. Um, but when you get into these, there appears to be something that's an issue. Okay, so if you come across these, you ask 100 questions, and you may come across 5 questions like these. These are the questions that when you see these responses, you need to follow up on. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're talking to a killer, which Miss Lazarus turned out to be, um, but it might mean that you need to ask a couple of questions. So when you see these responses, that you see these clusters of nonverbal behaviors, or you see responses that don't seem to make that much sense, you're going to go back, and these are the ones that you're going to ask those questions for. Question that I bookmark at 6:46:02. It's interesting because she starts anxious, and then she seems to get less anxious. She starts talking about when her husband moved in 92 or 93, and she's talking about an earthquake. And then she gets back to John and she gets more anxious again. So starts anxious, less anxious, anxious again. And so when you get to that less anxious part there where she's talking about her husband moving in, that would be essentially a baseline. For her, she looks calm. She's not too worried about it. She's talking about a topic that's comfortable enough to discuss, and then she gets back into something that's uncomfortable. So with all of these things, seeing the deviations, you have to have that baseline first. The baseline comes from rapport. Um, and, for Miss Lazarus here, for example, she makes a lot of face expressions. She does. She's by far more facially expressive than most people that I come across. And so what that means is just simply that uh, you take that into account. And so, whereas somebody who their baseline is not facially expressive at all, and then all of a sudden they become facially expressive, then that change would be something that's interesting. But even within Miss Lazarus, although she does have a little more facial expression, there are times when it's very ridiculous. Like on that last question, he's asking about a car, and I don't know how the car relates to this case, but suddenly she's making a duck face and doing something very strange. I don't know what happened there, but that's one of those things where if you come across those questions, you're going to want to know, what did I ask her? What was that response? That response is really weird. I'm asking about a car, and that's a ridiculous response. And so I'm going to go back for sure, and I'm going to ask more questions. And it's possible that you'll see these things that are deviations from the baseline, and then they're going to wrap themselves up. They'll give an answer. They'll say, oh, well, I meant this because of this. All of a sudden they seem calm, and you're like, okay, I feel like this has resolved itself. Whereas opposed to, what you're probably going to find when you notice these outliers is when you go back, that they're going to continue to be uncomfortable. And those are things that may give you grounds to dig into if it goes into an interrogation. So thank you for listening. This is something that I'm going to continue to do with these shorts, in terms of setting this up for people who want to learn this stuff, to pay attention to all three of those things, okay? And getting that practice of having to remember what you asked, listening to what they say, and then also observing how they say it. So I hope you learned something, and I will see you on the next one.